Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are joining us from around the world. I'm Kaitie Zhee. It is March 4th, 2020. I'm joined with David Johnston and Paul.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, hello. So we've got a lot of content to cover, a lot of progress that is continuously underway and activity going on. Some big and exciting ones that there's been a lot of chatter around. Starting small, I noticed small is relative, right? We crossed $1 billion in total, or a quarter billion in total conversions in the network. So that's cool. I also noticed just this afternoon that half of the total volume in the last 24 hours is around pegged USD in itself, which is really cool. And David, do you want to touch on maybe why that might be, or how the community can kind of interpret what different activities like that might mean for the system?
Well, in PegNet, everything is dollar denominated, and the whole PUSD is always $1 inside the PegNet. Makes it a really easy conversion pair. Almost think of like a traditional trading pair. You know, having something that doesn't move on one side and you have the variability on the other side sure makes your scripts and calculations a lot easier. So if you wanted exposure to gold and then you come back into PUSD, you don't have to worry about if the other side of the equation has moved, right? If you're going back into PBTC or PETH, you know, you have variability on both sides, and it becomes really hard to build a strategy. So I'm not surprised to see this sort of emergent behavior where people are using PUSD primarily as the conversion pair that they're going back and forth between. So, you know, interesting to see. We've got sort of a general community sentiment rising around really pushing PUSD, not only internally, but in external exchanges, because it's one of the most popular pegged pairs, and it makes an easy on-ramp and off-ramp. And people are sort of used to stable coins and things pegged to $1. So, you know, I think it makes a ton of sense to put more effort into getting it out there. So yeah, $250 million of conversions, big milestone. At the current rate, it seems like we'll be ticking off a lot of those big round numbers in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, I would guess, without having the full insight of what that activity around the pegged USD looks like, but given that the transactions and conversions are fixed to 1/10 of a penny, it makes it really easy to, you know, frictionlessly move in and out without paying these exorbitant fees that a lot of people might be accustomed to doing, so that they can only make those transactions and conversions when there's enough profit in that action. And might be worth noting that I think I was caught that you mentioned something yesterday in the Discord that, you know, without Factom as being one of the layers that PegNet is built on, that 1/10 of a penny transaction cost wouldn't be possible. Like if we were to write this purely on, or the community were to write this purely on Ethereum, that wouldn't be possible. And maybe you can shed a little bit more technical insight, or Paul can, on why or how Factom is so valuable here.
Sure.
The 1/10 of a cent an entry credit. And if you think of entry credits as prepaid fees, then if you put $1 in, you have 1,000 transactions that you can make, and you just don't have to worry about fees so much. Given that $1 would be, you know, anywhere from 2 to 5 transactions on most blockchains, paying $1 to get 1,000 transactions, it's almost like just ignore that and everything else is free. And so you're just able to put these transactions in and do your conversions and ignore fees for the most part.
Yeah, I know that the guys at the Commodity wallet have actually just absorbed the cost, because the cost is so small that they're providing entry credits to their users. So the user doesn't even have to think about getting an entry credit in order to do a conversion. So, I mean, if the user does 10 actions, you know, costs them 1 penny. It's just like Paul said, it's like a rounding error in the back end. So I think that kind of approach makes a lot of sense. When we see these called meta transactions in Ethereum, you know, EOS, other blockchains, allow for a developer to pay for a user, and Factom has that capability thanks to entry credits built in, what makes it super easy for the developer to pay for the user. So yeah, no, I think that's a great point, Katie. People are like, oh, why combined Ethereum and Factom? It's because we get all these huge advantages on cost from putting the data on Factom, and you can still leverage all of the infrastructure that's in the Ethereum ecosystem when it comes to the wallets and liquidity pools and everything else.
Yeah, and it's also important to point out that what using Factom does is all you're buying is the data integrity, and that tenth of a cent buys you a full K worth of data to build your transaction in. And so when you go look at transaction costs in the predominant blockchains, they're basically charging you on a per byte basis. Well, that's because there's a lot of computation involved in Bitcoin, or a lot of computation involved in terms of Ethereum in processing that transaction. But Factom is simply recording the data and serving it back up to you. So there is no computational cost. The actual computational cost for the PegNet is in the wallets and is distributed across all the users and all the miners. There's not a centralized or pushed out into an entire blockchain cost to do the computation. And so basically, and maybe it's a little too complex for this particular update, but basically what Factom is really doing for you is breaking those costs out and making it far, far cheaper and less expensive to do these transactions.
Yep. No, that's a great point. And, I think the value here is when we can combine sort of the superpowers of each different platform, and Factom, like Paul said, it's great for data integrity. And a lot of what PegNet is doing is allowing miners to publish these Oracle prices. So all of that data has to go somewhere every 10 minutes. These are hundreds of price records, and you're not going to jam that into the Ethereum blockchain. It's much better to put it in a data layer like Factom. But it's probably worth updating everybody that, things are coming along really well with a lot of the Ethereum integrations. So the Chainlink integration is just about done. The developer pushed an update and looks like it's just a couple of days out. I'll be excited to see that, both making PegNet data available on Chainlink and also making Chainlink data available to PegNet miners. I think will strengthen both systems, especially given what we've seen with the problems of centralized oracles. We want to get our decentralized approach to oracles out to the community as fast as we can. Two other great pieces of infrastructure, Kyber, Uniswap. I know there are a couple of developers that have been working on those integrations. Looks like those are just about done, and those are getting set up. So that'll be exciting to announce when that's fully ready to go. So yeah, I mean, just the community outpouring of support for these different initiatives have been awesome, and we've taken those. Those resources have been made available for developers that want to go and work on those different projects. And so, they've jumped on them and getting a lot of that done.
I love it. I mean, this is one of the things that I love about blockchain in general that gravitated me to this greater horizontal industry is that it's so collaborative. It's so open. And that's showing forward now in with these different integrations. If you got these different communities, and it's like, where can we plug in to bring value versus more of that tribalist kind of mentality. You have that in crypto, make no mistake about it. But it's always nice to see when you get these collaborative approaches coming along. So also worth noting, so this is something that probably a lot of the community might be tuning into this video for, is there's been a lot of chatter and excitement around TradingView tool coming up, or the alpha version of that set to go live on Friday, March 6th. So if you're watching this before then, jump into the Discord. The link will be below this video, and you can add yourself to the list so you can get access to testing that out. And David or Paul, if you want to touch more on what this TradingView tool is, even what is TradingView for those who might not know? Start there.
Sure. So TradingView is a community of traders that's about 3 million people. So it's grown a lot the last few years. And what people use it for are looking at different price points across different exchanges, but also running strategies that are really helpful for sort of automatically, hey, when the price hits here, execute my trade on this exchange. And so it's a tool that layers across multiple exchanges, and that's sort of the best way to think about it is if you're a trader, you're dealing with lots of different exchanges. And rather than logging into every different account, TradingView sort of gives you this picture across all of your accounts. So there's this big trading community there. And what we want to offer is, hey, let's create a tool where somebody using TradingView can trigger their trading strategy inside PegNet and take advantage of those super low tenth of a penny costs for doing conversions, right? So as soon as something triggers, an alert in TradingView, hey, that price hit, $10,000 of Bitcoin. I want to trigger a conversion inside PegNet, let's say, to then trade PBTC for PUSD, for example. So using that external information to trigger actions inside PegNet. So that's the first phase of this integration, is a simple website and interface that somebody can log in, connect to their TradingView information, and then start adding in these strategies that will then be triggered on PegNet inside of their wallet. Now, the second phase that we're going to see next week is, let's call it full arbitrage, where you can not only trigger things inside of PegNet, but you can move back and forth between PegNet and external exchanges, right? So deposits and withdrawals from the wallet into exchanges and vice versa. So now, all of a sudden, we're going to lower the bar for anybody to, oh, the price of PUSD is low, I'm going to grab some of those and put them in my wallet, and then I'm going to do some trading, and then I'm going to move back onto the exchange. So right now, there's just a very high technical barrier to be able to do all of that, either manually inside the GUI wallet, or maybe build some scripts inside of the command line wallet. So this hopefully will make it much easier for people to leverage this huge community of tools and scripts that's available on TradingView to execute those inside of PegNet. So sort of the core idea is, let's not reinvent the wheel. Like, there's already a great set of tools out there and big communities that have been using them for years. Let's just leverage all of that and give them access to the advantages that PegNet has. So I'm really excited about that. Jump into the Discord and you can get one of the invites for the alpha that comes out on Friday. But that's been really exciting. That's been one of the initiatives that people have donated towards, that I've been donating towards for open source development.
Well, thank you for that. And to those who are donating and helping to build this, whether you're donating your time or you're donating being a testing guinea pig there with it, or whatever the case might be, being involved is how we move this forward. And I think what I would anticipate is that, given what we just discussed with that fixed transaction cost of being a tenth of a penny, this has some good potential for becoming quite popular inside the TradingView community.
Yeah, I'd love to see more and more traders get access to this and sort of really, whether they're trading crypto or fiats, there's just so many assets on PegNet now. You've got the top 20 crypto, top 20 fiat, gold and silver. They can kind of move in between all of these asset classes without having to move out of the PegNet system. So yeah, I think that's going to be super helpful, and hopefully even will change their strategies, because normally maybe they would only trade if there's a certain spread, because, well, I've got to cover my fees. But now with their fees so low at a tenth of a penny, hopefully they can move much faster. Okay, I only need a really small increase and then I can execute this strategy. So I think hopefully it'll drive a much more fluid and flexible strategy than has been possible before.
I would imagine so. I don't think that's a far-fetched idea at all. If you are watching this and you're part of the TradingView community, or maybe that's even how you got into crypto, certain traders in there, please share the word about this new tool that's being released within the PegNet system. Would love to get some more avid traders testing it out and maybe seeing how they adjust their strategies, and it'd be fascinating to talk to them and get them introduced to it.
Awesome.
What else can we talk about? One of the things I did want to highlight is the PIPs, so the PegNet improvement proposals. Just really appreciating the community for all of the activity that's been going on there and helping to formalize ideas within the PegNet community and system. Um, David, you have a much better hold on what PIP number goes with what, what kind of building or proposal. Are there any that you want to highlight on this weekly update?
There's been a bunch of proposals recently. There were debates around PIP 8, sort of a way to do more variability of PEG available for conversions. There were some concerns about that, so that was put on hold. So that hasn't been implemented yet, but there's been some stuff published about it. Paul's done PIP 10, which is sort of another iteration around that idea. Somebody just put out PIP 11, which is sort of a whole range of ideas for how to balance incentives for not only mining, but I think probably staking will end up getting called PIP 12. And so sort of there's all these ideas floating around the community, and this is a great way to sort of formalize thoughts around them, whether they're fully implemented or they just end up being a way to discuss sort of how do we balance mining and staking. There's proposals to reward developers. But that may add a lot of complexity to the system. So we have to think through, sort of what are the effects of, sort of there's a lot of things that would be nice to have. And then they're like, okay, what are the effects on the system? Does it open attack vectors? Does it add complexity? This is sort of all the things the community is talking through. But I think it's a really healthy process. This is a process that's been used long before crypto, was used well in the Bitcoin ecosystem, is used in the Ethereum ecosystem. So PegNet improvement proposals, there's a dedicated channel in the Discord. So jump into the PIPs channel if you're so inclined around governance and incentives and token economics and sort of all things improvements to the system. But I encourage people before they sort of make a lot of comments or questions is really just to read what's already been proposed and it'll give you a good sense for the ideas that are already out there. So yeah, hope to see more engagement there, but I think that's a great process. And ultimately, what you want is, as the community comes to consensus on different ideas, whether it's staking or conversions or the buffer that's been proposed, as consensus is formed, then it gets down to the nitty gritty of, okay, how do you implement this in code in a way that makes sense, that doesn't create a burden on anybody in the system. And then it's ultimately funding developers, donating to developers to build out these systems and then deliver them to the miners. And ultimately you have to have buy-in from the community. Like, do the miners want it? Will the exchanges upgrade? And so far, we've done a good job, I think, of balancing and not really pushing anything too contentious. And so all of the upgrades have been really smooth where, okay, the community talked about it, there's consensus, there's the need for this, it gets coded up, gets released, and everybody upgrades. So, I think that's going to evolve over time. Right now, it's fairly fast. There's typically been discussions for a few weeks and then coding for a few weeks, and then it gets released over time as the system matures. I think, that'll become a longer process, but right now it's still iterating very quickly.
I'm just realizing on this chat right now, if my math is right, I think we're about to hit 6 months from when transactions and conversions went live. I believe that was October 7th or 9th.
From conversions, and we've been mining since August 19th. So it's been 198 days since we began mining PegNet. So yeah, it's coming up on our 200-day anniversary in 2 more days. I was calculating it because part of the discussions are about the supply curve and sort of be interesting, if you take out that 10,000 peg reward every block for 200 days, what's the natural supply curve over a year, over a few years. So anyway, yeah, it's growing up, our little PegNet system, as millions of dollars of value and tens of millions of dollars of conversions every day, and $250 million in total conversions, and miners doing 1.5 billion hash. Like, it's a real thing. So I think as the tools and the community grow, we're just going to keep knocking out fun milestones to make it better.
as the godfather of decentralized applications, I think you're becoming and taking on the father of PegNet. You seem like a
I don't need a title, but you know, I'm happy to be mining and donating and having a lot of fun with, you know, I mean, I think this can be the heart of DeFi, right? Is we have to have all of these assets in people's hands where they hold their own keys. And you know what I really want to avoid is just rebuilding the banking system where it's a few entities that hold custody, and you know, it doesn't have to be that way. So you know, we're gonna push an alternative, and that's the beautiful thing about crypto and blockchain is you can choose your own values and you can choose your own ethics. And you know, I think this will be something, and is something that a lot of people are excited about. So.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I think one of the last points that I wanted to cover or bring up on this weekly update was about a call for the different development efforts, kind of a March roundup with the bounties. Interested to hear how things are going now that we've implemented bounties on Gitcoin, and yeah.
Sure. You know, I think I'll hopefully do a write-up sometime this week and push out an update to the community, but you know, sort of calling together all the initiatives that people made pledges to, where we found developers that are, you know, working on those different initiatives, where there's still gaps, maybe where developers can jump in, where there's sweet bounties and rewards available. So yeah, hopefully I'll get some time to cull together that information, unless somebody does it before me. But you know, I think that kind of cadence that we've got on a monthly basis is really great. So we have all those pledges from February, what else need next?
Yeah, Paul, I don't know if, ooh, I got some echoing going on.
Yeah, there's something happened to my setup here. Hang on. Are you still there?
Yep. Now it works.
There we go. Was there something that you wanted to add to that, Paul? With the bounties and the development efforts and looking at the next month ahead here? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was connected via my phone, and my phone decided to do weird things. Sorry about that.
Good.
So, all right, David, with the bounties, if somebody's watching this and they're interested in, well, I might like some peg reward and bounties, where can they keep an eye out for upcoming information on where their opportunity might lay?
So there's a dedicated channel for pledges on Discord, so people can check that out and they can see all the items that people have pledged towards. There's a more robust list on a Google Sheet that's also in that channel. We can put the link here, sort of all the open developer things that have already been delivered, that are in progress, that you know are sort of proposed, and how much is pledged towards each of them. And I would just remind people that it's sort of a reward system. So it's not, hey, I'll do something, pay me, and then I'll provide it. It's, you have to really build it and code it and provide it, and then the community provides the rewards. So to sort of eliminate a lot of the bureaucracy, it's a reward system. So the first person that delivers the thing the community wants, they get the reward. But usually there's sort of good communication, and if you raise your hand and say, hey, I'll work on that, then likely you'll be the person that gets the opportunity to deliver that first. But you know, hopefully we'll spark more and more competition as the community grows. But you know, right now it's just very collaborative, and almost everything that gets pledged is open source contribution. So it's going to end up getting donated to PegNet repo or some other repo.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Not a whole lot more meat to add on this weekly update. Want to keep them a little bit brief. There is certainly more activity that's going on, be it from creating a video, the development projects and details around them. But if you are interested to know more, join us on the Discord, join the conversation. It's pegnet.org/chat. Link is below. And I guess we can sign off until next week.
Sounds good. Thanks, Katie.
All right.
You guys.
Thank you much, Katie.
Thank you, Paul and David. All right. See you guys.